Liking this video will help this channel to grow. So please go ahead and give this video a like.
In this section of our lesson on non-right angle triangles, we will be calculating unknown lengths using the cosine rule. If you haven't yet watched the two previous uploads on the sine rule, ensure that you do so in order to be able to tackle questions relating to the sine rule. Now, let's start by looking at the criteria for using the cosine rule. If a question concerns the lengths and angles of a non-right angle triangle and we do not have a matching pair, we have to use the cosine rule. So in this section of our lesson, we're going to look at using the cosine rule to find an unknown length on our non-right angled triangle. Now, to use the cosine rule to calculate an unknown length, we first of all need to know two sides of that triangle and the included angle. Now, when we talk about the included angle, we mean the angle exactly between the two sides that we know on the triangle. So to qualify that diagrammatically, let's consider the triangle ABC. So I've got angle A to be 20. I've got side AB to be 9 and side AC to be 12. So we can see that the angle is in between 9 and 12. That's what we call an included angle. So once we know this and we see that on this particular shape we do have the two sides and the included angle, we then can use the cosine rule to find x, and that's because we do not have a matching pair, meaning if I had a matching pair I would have to know side x if I know side 20, angle 20. So this is how I know I cannot use the sine rule. Make sure that you go back and watch the sine rule lessons as well. Those were previously uploaded. So now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about what does the cosine rule state for length. Now the cosine rule for finding an unknown length states that a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. Of course, we can see that this has some form of relationship with the Pythagoras theorem, because we know our Pythagoras theorem talks about the fact that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So that kind of helps you to remember what the cosine rule says. Now, the A here is the side that we are trying to find. And the cos A means the angle that we are given. And remember, we said this angle has to be an included angle, so it must be between the two given side on the triangle. Absolutely brilliant. So what I want you to do now, pause the video and write this formula down, because we're going to be using it to find the unknown lengths of our non-right angled triangle. So let's consider our first of two examples. We are asked here to work out the length of side x. And this diagram is not drawn to scale, so we cannot measure it with our ruler. So we observe our diagram and we check what are we going to use, what rule are we using. Now, remember we said we can only use the sine rule if we know two sides and the included angle, which is the angle that's between them. So I've got 14, I've got 8, and I also know the angle between them, which is given to be 92. So therefore, I can use the cosine rule. So we're going to write the rule down and then substitute in it. So we're told that the rule states that a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. Now remember, A is the side that we want to find, so we're going to label this A, hence 92 is our angle A. I'm just going to call this side B and the other side C. Now that we've labeled all the diagram, we're just going to substitute the values here into the formula. So because we're finding x, A is therefore x, so x squared is equal to, B was labeled 14, so 14 squared plus c is 8. So that's 8 squared. Take away, please note that 2bc means multiplication is happening between 2b and c. So it's minus 2 times by, please put in bracket what you're substituting. So our b was 14, c was 8. And then that's being multiplied by cos A, which is the angle here as 92 degrees. Absolutely brilliant. Now that we've done that, nice and easy here, we can just put this all in our calculator. So x squared is equal to, get our calculator, we're now going to do 14 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times by 14 times by 8 multiplied by cos 92. So that gives us 267.817483. Now again, we can just save this as an answer in our calculator because we're going to need to do the square root of this. Remember, we're asked to find x, but this formula gives us x squared. So now we need to do the opposite of squaring, which is square root. So I've saved mine as an answer. So x therefore will be equal to the square root of 267.817483. I could have also just put square root of the answer and just write ans on my paper. So x is therefore equal to, just going to do square root of ans, and that is equal to 16.4 to 1 decimal place. Beautiful. So there we've got it. Once we put our formula down, we identify our A. So remember, the A will always be the angle. Cos A will be the angle that we have for the included angle, and letter A will be the side we are trying to find. It doesn't really matter the letters that we use once we know what is the corresponding side to the cos of that side. That's very important. So we're going to do another example and then we're going to summarize. Beautiful. So here we are asked to work out the length of side x. We are given this triangle. Again, it is not drawn accurately. So we are working another side. So we're given 54 for our included angle. We got 6.2 and 6 as the sides. So again, we write our formula out. So when you're learning a new topic, it's a very good practice to write your formula out so that you can substitute into that formula. So we know that a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. Beautiful. So now we're going to substitute. So the side we want is A. So let's label that and angle A. So x squared for the missing side is equal to 6.2 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 multiplied by 6.2 for B multiplied by 6 for C and then multiplied by cos A, and that is 54 degrees. Beautiful. Now that we got that, we can just put that all into our calculator. So let's do that. So we've got 6.2 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times by 6.2 times by 6 times by cos 54. So x squared is equal to, let's see what we get. We get 30.7087773. Again, we could just save that as an answer in our calculator. Now we've got x squared equal to that value. We need to do x on its own, so we need to do the opposite of squaring, which is square rooting our answer. So it's going to be the square root of 30.087773, and I'm just going to give my answer to, so square root ans, and that gets me to 5.5 to 1 decimal place, centimeters. Remember to put your unit on. Absolutely brilliant. Now, truth be told, we could also have from the first step just put x equal to the square root of all of that we wrote down here, and that would have taken us straight to the answer. If it was a calculator paper, we'll do that, but a good practice is to show all your steps. And that's so because you could also get these questions on a non-calculator paper as well. But what would happen, they would give you an angle here that you could use your exact trig value to get. And that's simply how we use our cosine rule to find an unknown length in a non-right angled triangle. Beautiful. Now that we've done that, it's now time for our key takeaway. So remember, we've said that if you're given a non-right angled triangle and you do not know a matching pair, you have to use the cosine rule to find the missing length. Now we can only use the cosine rule if I know two sides of the triangle and the included angle, which is the angle that's in between those two sides. Now, if I'm finding an unknown length, the cosine rule states that a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a, where a is the included angle. Absolutely brilliant. So guys, make sure that you hit that notification bell if you haven't, share with someone so that they too benefit from these beautiful lessons as well, and also stay tuned so that you can see when the next section of this lesson is uploaded, where we're going to be focused on using the cosine rule to find an unknown angle. Thank you so much for watching.